You're pre-approved, you've saved up some cash, and you've decided to buy your first home. What are some of the mistakes you want to avoid making that could cost you thousands of dollars in the current market? That's our topic for today's video, and we're going to get started right now. Let's talk about choosing an agent. If you've purchased a home a few years back, or if you're a first-time home buyer, things have changed, and they've changed big time. As a result of the settlement in the lawsuit between the National Association of Realtors and the plaintiffs in the Sitzer-Burnett case, as of August 17th of this year, if you want to see a home, you're required to sign a buyer-broker agreement. Now, what is a buyer-broker agreement? A buyer-broker agreement is an agreement or a contract between the buyer and the buyer's agent, which explains exactly how much the agent will be paid, the duties of the agent, and the length of the contract. You cannot see a home with an agent without an agreement in place. Do not sign anything unless you clearly understand what you're signing. Let's say you're a brand new home buyer, you hop on Zillow and you'd like to go out there and see a home. You're not quite ready to buy yet, but you're just want to kick a few tires. And you'd like to just see what's out there on the market. Let's say you have a family friend who's an agent, and that's who you plan on using when it comes time to buy. But here's the deal. If you sign a contract with an agent, with another agent, then you're legally bound by contract to work with that agent. That means you may not be able to work with the agent who you plan to work with in a couple of months. If you want to see any home, call your agent. Don't use the agent on Zillow, and don't sign anything until you read the contract and understand the terms. Here's another thing to consider. Compensation is negotiable, and the terms are negotiable. Be very careful about signing a contract and being locked into a long-term relationship. The terms are negotiable. Let's say it's your first time working with a particular agent. You might want to sign an agreement where you're only obligated on one particular property, or for maybe a brief period of time. That way, if you like working with that agent, then you can go to a more extended contract. Let's take a moment and talk about how an agent gets paid. Now, as a result of the settlement, things have changed. Back in the day, the listing agent would advertise in the multiple listing service a cooperating commission, meaning let's say the listing broker charged the seller 5% commission. The listing broker would offer a cooperating commission of, let's just say, 2.5% to an agent who brought the buyer. Now, remember, commissions are negotiable. This is just an example. Now, those days are gone. As a result of the lawsuit, listing agents are prohibited from advertising a cooperating commission in the MLS. The seller can still offer compensation to a buyer's agent, but it just can't be advertised on the MLS. So what happens now? Let's say I have clients who would like to buy a home and they call me to see a property. Before we tour that property, my clients have to sign an exclusive buyer agency agreement. Now, this is a contract, and in that contract, let's say I decide to charge my clients, and this is just an example, 2.5% of the gross sales price plus a $495 broker flat fee. Let's say the price of the home they're looking at is $300,000. Now, for my services and representation, I would charge the buyers 2.5% of $300,000 or $7,500 plus a $495 flat fee. Now, this is just an example. Commissions are negotiable, but I wanted to put some real numbers behind it. Many sellers understand that many buyers have a difficult time coming up with the money for the down payment, the closing costs, and now they have to pay a buyer's agent. The seller, in order to make their home more attractive to a buyer, what a seller will do is many sellers will offer to pay for the buyer's agent. How does this work in real life? Now, in the contract, the buyer agent will write in the contract, seller to credit 2.5% of the purchase price to the buyer at closing to satisfy the buyer's contractual obligation to the buyer's brokerage. This just means the seller is paying your buyer's agent compensation, except for the $495 flat fee. Now let's shift gears and talk about inspections. Now keep in mind, real estate is local. Every state has its own laws, and every market is going to have its own norms and customs. For example, in our market, if you're buying a home, the buyer has two choices. Number one, the buyer elects not to obtain property inspections, or two, the buyer reserves the right to perform property inspections. Now, if you opt to conduct inspections, our purchase agreement has a 14-day window after the offer is accepted to conduct any and all inspections. Now, I'm a huge fan of reserving the right to perform property inspections, and here's why. Notice it says inspections with an S and not inspection. If you get cold feet, the time to bail is during the home inspection period. You have three options during this period. You can accept the property as is, you can ask the seller to make some repairs, or you can bail. After the 14-day window, it becomes very hard to change your mind. When your offer is accepted, you're in a legally binding contract. Almost everyone knows the importance of a home inspection. However, when you write the contract in our market, can conduct inspections. For example, one of the inspections you can do is a sewer scope inspection. This is where a plumber is going to run a camera down the main sewer line. A sewer scope inspection is not part of a whole house inspection. This is a separate test, and in our market runs you about $275. Many people don't realize that you, as a homeowner, are responsible from your home to where the sewer line connects in the middle of the street. If you have to replace a main sewer line, that repair is substantial, and I've seen it cost anywhere up to $20,000. And this is something that's not covered by your homeowner's insurance. There are a few indicators of when it would be a good idea to do a sewer scope inspection. Number one, if the home was built before 1990. Two, if the neighborhood is filled with mature hardwood trees. Three, if the main plumbing stack is made of cast iron. And four, on that main stack, you see a rubber drain plug instead of the original cast iron drain plug. That indicates at some point the drain plug has been replaced. The other item you want to investigate is the seller disclosure statement. In Nebraska, one of the questions in the seller disclosure is on page 3. Has the main sewer line from the house ever backed up or exhibited slow drainage? If the seller says yes, then you want to explore the comments section on page 4 and see what they said about the main sewer line. Here's another tip. Schedule the sewer scope inspection right away before the whole house inspection. And here's why. If the sewer line is bad, then you can cancel the whole house inspection. If you're buying a home, especially one that's over 100 years old, you are a fool not to do a sewer scope inspection. I don't care how nice the home is on the inside. I recently had a buyer make an offer on a home that was built in 1911. Incredible home. However, we did the sewer scope inspection and the main line was packed with tree roots. Now, here's what made matters worse. The neighbor's sewer connected to my client's main line. That means when the main sewer line is replaced, the neighbor's sewer has to be capped. Then the neighbor would have to retrench a new line to the street. That repair would cost the neighbor $11,000. Needless to say, my client's bailed, and here's a tip if you're a seller. When the buyer is doing any inspections, get out of the house. Don't hang around. Don't watch. If you find out something, then you have to disclose that to the next buyer if the deal goes south. And here's another tip. If you're a seller, don't chat or make small talk with the buyer's agent. You might say something that may seem harmless, but it can kill a deal. When we talk about inspections, if you're buying a home, you can do a sewer scope inspection, a whole house inspection, inspections of any of the major systems. For example, a roof, furnace, AC, plumbing, or electrical. Sometimes a whole house inspection will say, have the furnace evaluated by a qualified HVAC contractor. Or another example would be if it's a foundation issue, you might say, have the foundation inspected by a structural engineer. Now, in eastern Nebraska, we have elevated radon levels. Now, radon is a colorless, odorless, naturally occurring radioactive gas that is the leading cause of lung cancer in non-smokers. If elevated radon levels are detected, you can ask the seller to install a radon mitigation system. What about a new home? Do I need to conduct an inspection on a new home? And the answer is yes. It doesn't hurt to have a second set of eyes look things over. Things can get missed. People make mistakes. Will a home inspection find everything? No. It is a visual inspection. It's a snapshot in time. A home inspection will decrease your risk, not eliminate it. Let's take a moment and talk about the seller property condition disclosure statement. Now, many buyers don't read over the seller disclosure statement carefully. You're spending several $100,000 buying a home. Take the time to read the seller disclosure. We live in a world where everything is signed electronically. If your agent sends paperwork over to sign, look over what they send. Agents can make mistakes. Things can get missed. 95% of the people don't bother reading any of the paperwork. I think you're making a giant mistake. If you notice on the purchase agreement, there are 11 pages. Every page of that legally binding contract has initials for both the buyer and the seller at the bottom of the page. And why is that? Well, when something happens, neither the buyer nor the seller can say, hey, I wasn't aware of that, because they initial every page of the contract. Do yourself a favor and read the contract. Number 4, let's talk about buying a home you can afford. Just because your lender says you can buy a $300,000 home doesn't mean you should. Your lender and your real estate agent are going to be long gone after you start making your house payments. Understand that your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance not can go up, it will go up. In Nebraska, our home prices are more affordable, especially if you're coming from another market. However, our property taxes and our homeowner insurance rates are some of the highest in the nation. If you're buying new construction, the first year on your property taxes, you're going to get a break. However, after that first year, be ready for your property taxes to go up substantially because your property is going to be fully assessed. And if you're living in a newer subdivision, your mill levy or your tax rate will be higher compared to other parts of the city of Omaha. And here's another mistake. Many first-time buyers push the limit and they can barely afford the home they purchase. If you're buying a home, make sure you budget for maintenance. I don't know, it might be just me, but it seems like appliances from 30 years ago used to last forever. But if you buy a washer or dryer today, it lasts 5 or 6 years tops. 30 years ago, it seems like appliances lasted a lot longer. Make sure you budget and plan for replacement and repairs. Many buyers, after they buy a home, they want to go crazy with remodeling. Now, buy a home, move in, get settled for a year or two, then go in and make improvements. Sometimes there's always something that seems to happen. You just want to make sure you budget and plan accordingly. Now let's talk about number 5, and that is don't be in a hurry. Don't be in a hurry. Sometimes it's okay to rent. Let's say you're relocating to Omaha, and I help a lot of buyers from across the country relocate to Omaha. Sometimes people move here and guess what? They don't like it and they move right back. Rent for a year, learn the city, find out what you like to do, where you like to hang out, and go ahead and take your time. If you buy a home and then turn right around and sell it a year later, chances are you're going to lose money. The only person that's going to benefit from that is your agent. Do your research. When you move here, spend some time driving around the city. Learn different communities. Stay at an Airbnb for a couple of months. Don't be afraid to expand your search a little. One of the nice things about living in Omaha is our commute times. You can expand your search just a tad. Look at school districts. We have some great communities surrounding Omaha and some great neighborhoods inside the city of Omaha. Keep an open mind and expand your search. Another one of our advantages in our market is that we have lots of new construction. Look at some of the new construction communities. Omaha is growing and we offer both new and existing homes. And what's shocking to many people is the affordability of our new construction. At the time of the filming of this video, an entry-level new construction home begins around $350,000. You'll be pleasantly surprised if you're moving from a more expensive market.